Hello.
Hello.
Hello, Dr.
Good
Chan.
evening.
Hi. Hi.
Hi,
Hi.
Dr. Chan. Hi, Dr. Chasatya. How are you?
Hey, how are you guys doing?
Good,
So,
good.
this is the first time I'm doing this live.
4% live.
Yeah. So, I was figuring out. Yeah, so good evening, everyone, and good morning, Sanjana.
Yeah, it's 8:34 a.m. for me. So,
Right. So, welcome to the series that I'm doing called Chai with Dr. Chetan. I hope your tea is ready.
it is, it is. It is green tea. I didn't get a chance to make any.
Awesome.
Not
Awesome.
water.
Yeah, so for everybody who is joining in, so today's topic is rather um, not so spoken about in the media and on social media as well, other than doctors and probably the family members of doctors. It's violence against doctors. So why did I choose both of you? Because I want to get a perspective from a non-doctor, right? Because see, if doctors obviously are very infuriated because it happened to their community, but generally violence is something that should infuriate anybody, right?
Right.
Not just doctors. I mean, that's what happens when we see any rape or any murder happening across any caste, creed, and profession. We all have a outrage, together. But when it happens to doctors, we often feel this battle is very alone. Like we fight this by ourselves. No one comes to our support. Um, so I want to get the perspective from both of you, and I want everyone to introduce themselves. So we have Dr. Satya. You want to say something? What do you do?
I'm an ophthalmologist, and I do work with COVID patients occasionally. So that's about it for now.
What about you, Sanjana? Where are you from? What do you do?
Hi, I'm Sanjana, and I'm a IT analyst. I live in the US. I just shifted back. I was in India up until a few months ago, and I just moved back to the US. And I also make some content in Reels. That's why I'm joining from that page. So it's a public platform. So I'm hoping this reaches out to a few people who are within the community, who do have families, who just understand the perspective of doctors, basically. Like, I just wanted to understand that and kind of give my 2 cents, because I know a lot of doctors. I'm, related to a lot of doctors, and I love a lot of doctors. So
That's great. What about Ram? What do you do?
Yeah. Hi. So I'm Ram. I work in the software industry. I'm a technologist. I have very little clue into what goes into a day-to-day life of what all a doctor experiences, but of late I've been hearing a lot and reading a lot as well. My wife's a doctor, so I hear a lot from her. But obviously, I don't understand what you guys go through on a day-to-day basis, but I do empathize with the situation that's been happening off late.
Right. So I think we'll start with Sanjana. Sanjana, do you know the statistics? I mean, did you look through them, and what's the scene there?
So just to get an objective perspective, I wanted to understand, like, why. So from what I read, because now I'm not very familiar with this topic, and I just know personal anecdotes that I've heard from people who are physicians right now, and I wanted to understand, like, what the epidemic, or like why this problem even like has been incited. Like, why would you assume, like, doctors are supposed to be such a noble, like, you look to doctors as kind of like, you put them on kind of a pedestal because they're dealing with human lives. So I think it's very, my understanding from all of this is like, how can this happen to doctors? Like, these are the people you like, who you're supposed to kind of respect because of the kind of position they're in. They're kind of putting themselves in a position where they're constantly in a line of danger, essentially, like, you're facing disease, like, especially your frontline workers right now. So I was very confused. So I understood that, like, in the last maybe 15 to 20 years, it's been increasing gradually just due to medical policy changes and how modern medicine has allowed for a lot of privatization of the medical industry, which allows for business to kind of take over as an initiative. And a lot of doctors aren't really hired. Enough doctors aren't hired to care for the amount of patient inflow. So it's increased from, like, up to like 65 to 67% in the last 15 years, which is an incredible amount. And it's not just in India, it's in China, it's in America. It's decreased a lot in Canada because the government took on a lot of the burden of the medical expenses. So anywhere privatized healthcare is very much enforced and encouraged, I think violence has increased exponentially in the last few years.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of surveys done across many countries, and most of the results are matching. 75 to 80% of the doctors feel like they were threatened by uh, patient or patient's family member during their entire profession on multiple occasions. It happened to me. I'm not sure if it happened to you. So it happened to her as well. So Ram, what is your objective? Like,
No, so I read through the news. I obviously follow like social media, right? What I've seen is off late, especially during the pandemic, this violence has massively increased towards doctors, right? And one of the major reasons could be from, if you look at it from a perspective of like a patient's family member or any of that, they're like, oh, my family member didn't survive this, right? And this doctor is charging me massive amounts of fee, and he's still not able to save my family member. This doctor is making me buy medicines which I can't find anywhere, right? I can't find remdesivir, I can't find any of this. I'll have to go to the black market, spend lakhs of rupees, right? And still I'm not able to save my family member because the doctor is charging this fee, right? So I think there's a massive misconception which half the people don't realize, that the doctor isn't the person charging the fee, right? It is the hospital, and the doctor is working 20 hours a day, right? Not sleeping, waking up in the middle of the night, in fact actually going out there to try to save are they trying? Damn yes, like they are, like they're putting in all their effort, right? um I think it's a failure of the healthcare system in general, right? I don't know if people are realizing this. See, if you have, say, 60 beds in a hospital and you have 60 patients, right? You can treat them, right? But if you have 60 beds and 6,000 patients, what can you do? Right? You can't even bring a
and
patient,
6 doctors and 6,000.
right? And you can't even bring a patient into the hospital, right? They're dying out there. You can't find oxygen, and this has been happening more and more often,
And
right?
specifically in India, like the GDP, it's around 1% for a country of that magnitude. We're the second largest population in the world. And you're telling me only 1% of our GDP is contributing to government hospitals. Like, I understand privatization of hospital exists, but you're also putting an entire, you're making medicine a business, you're making saving human lives a business, which is already, I mean, that's a very intricate issue, and you have to go into it based on policy, and that's a lot to discuss. But you have to realize that like especially the Indian population, like we have a very huge gap. There's a huge class gap, and right now the population that's affected, we're seeing the gap decrease because every population is being affected. It's not just someone who's only going to government hospitals or someone who's only going to the private hospitals. It's literally broad all across. So and honestly, not just the government, I feel like the media and also specifically the hospital itself made the specific doctor a scapegoat, where it's like, no, like you have these patients outside a hospital waiting for a consultation with a specialist, and the specialist is so overworked, he's worked 18 hours already at this point, or he's like been working on like 18 hours, I'm saying, like taking calls as well, like working on his free time. So that's what doctors have been doing. So it's like, it's the face of the care has become a doctor. So it's no longer there's someone else behind running the show. No, it's the doctor who's been in charge of this, where you're put on a pedestal and you're also thrown off that pedestal. So it's like, where does that gap bridge? Why is that communication not happening? Why is no one talking about what's going on with the executives up there? Like, why isn't that conversation brought forth more?
So I think a couple of observations that I have from like what we just spoke, right? I think Ram, even the people who are not paying that kind of money, right? Even in the government hospitals, abuse keeps happening. The reasons are different there. They say that the sanitation isn't good, the facilities aren't very good. But
Right.
then I don't understand the doctors and residents and even medical students. How are they responsible for this? Because just like how you're going to a place to get treated, they're also coming to a place to treat.
Right.
So the consumerism and that concept just doesn't work in the health industry,
No.
Yeah.
right? The government sector. What do you think?
Well, I work in a medical college, so it's a similar. It's not like a private hospital, but it's not like a government one either. So it's difficult to go to a place which is overworked and expect them to do miracles. They're trying to do miracles, but it's a miracle. It just doesn't happen out of nowhere. And I mean, this is healthcare. Someone's ill and someone's making them better. So it requires resources to make a person better. So without the resources, you can't just, it's not like, Om Bean Bush, okay, you're good to go.
Right.
So without the resources, no one can really do anything. And the government hospitals and everything are so overworked. I don't know what the government's doing.
I mean, I don't
We
want
had a
to.
year to prepare. Sorry, we
Yeah.
had a year to prepare. But I don't think any of the hospitals were prepared for this. They weren't prepared with medicines. They weren't prepared with more infrastructure or oxygen or ventilators. So it's a gross, I'm going to go out there and say gross negligence of the government.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think more than anything, right? I mean, so people should understand that you can't blame anybody here.
Right.
These are the people that you chose, you elected, and these are doctors that you chose to go and get treated. So you can't really blame. I think the whole mindset of life and death has to change because um, science is an intuition, right? It's not just everything doesn't have a theory. Sometimes what we read in the books may not work on patients. Sometimes what we don't read in the books, we always try and error. At a point, if we can't do, if the primary treatment fails, we always do trial and error. So trial and error, the goal is to obviously save the patient's life. Nobody would want to just like kill the patient. People should understand that it's 1+1 is never 2 in medicine.
It's
It
not,
can be
medicine is
3.
never black and white. That's what people need to
Yeah,
understand. It's
yeah,
never black
exactly.
and white.
Exactly. Like, I understand that, you're supposed to ask questions about your family members' health, ask about the recovery rate or prognosis, or will this disease develop again. Doctor can only give their expertise in terms of what we read from our books. If something beyond books is happening that research didn't tell us, we don't know either because we're not researchers, we are practitioners. So I think that little thing what people usually miss. I think one of the reasons for underreporting or people not coming forth to support doctors is somewhere I think everybody resents like a doctor.
Yeah.
Like, because everybody, there's death in every house, right? There's no house where there is no death. Like we all lost people. So somewhere we feel there is that little resentment that, this doctor didn't save. I wish he tried harder.
Right.
Right? I think somewhere your voice becomes very like very soft, thinking that maybe yeah, I think they kind of deserve it. If
I don't know if like maybe yeah, maybe there's I can understand I can understand the why people would feel that way, because I think when you put people in a position of power, especially a power of saving someone's life, and they're not fulfilling it, it's, as human beings, you only look at things black and white when you're grieving. When you're like in heavy emotion, you can only look at things in black and white. It's very hard to look at things gray. So, it's easy to blame someone, and you need someone to point at, because that's how you process it. And the entire country is grieving right now. Like, it's not just individuals and families. So it's the person you can point to is a person who kind of everyone made the face of, to be like, these are the people who are going to save us, which is terrifying. It's like watching a superhero movie and knowing the superhero is doomed to fail. Like it's very terrifying. So I understand the people's emotion behind it, but it's a reinforcement that you have to have in a conversation with your family members. And like, I'm not saying like people in the audience as well. I don't know how many people have this experience. It's a conversation you have to keep having, where it's like it's not black and white. Until life and death is black and white, but medicine is not black and white.
Yeah.
So, like, Sanjana, you just said, superhero failed. But we do see superheroes failing.
Yeah.
I mean, there are losses, and, even in a movie like Avengers, people are dying.
Yeah,
and superheroes fail to save, people or other heroes.
Right.
So, also, one more thing I wanted to say is, so medicine is science, right?
Right.
So is, NASA and people going to outer space. That's science. Mathematics is a science. So when something goes wrong or something fails due to an unexplained reason, you don't go burning down NASA.
No.
You don't go shooting a mathematician. So medicine is also a science.
Right.
It's like you were saying, it's not black and white. It's science. There's only so much we know in medicine. Yes, it's, we're at a much better place than we were a couple of decades ago, but still, we can't save lives. A doctor can't save a life. They can only treat an illness in a patient.
Right.
You're not going to save a life.
Yeah, doctors don't help. They don't do, like, they don't
That's the
save.
narrative that needs to end, where it's like frontline workers are saving lives. It's like that
No,
narrative needs to.
they're treating the disease.
Yeah.
They're
Right.
trying to treat the disease.
Ram, why don't you tell, like, see, you're married to a doctor, right?
Right.
So you see the struggle. What do you think, like, does she deserve to, like, get abused by anybody?
No, obviously not, right? So, she works very hard. She goes to the hospital every day. She sees all these patients. She comes back home, ensures that, she's obviously sanitized, and ensures, she's not close to anyone in the family as well. So it's not easy for her, because she doesn't meet her family. She only stays in one particular place. And it's very tough when you have, like, I don't know, 70 patients that you treat in a day, right? As opposed to one doctor treating like 7 or 8 patients, right? They're working very hard. My biggest point would be, like, why aren't people talking more about this? See, why aren't celebrities coming out and talking? Why aren't, like, bigger doctors just coming out and talking about this? There are only few people who are even thinking of addressing this issue of violence against doctors, right? Why aren't, like, I don't know, why aren't, like, Hollywood heroes, the Bollywood heroes and all coming out and talking? We see few people here and there. I know a few people in the Malayalam industry did
Why
come
aren't, like, faces of, like, hospitals talking about it? Like, there's
Why
so many
politicians
celebrities
talk
who.
about it, right? Politicians were like, hey, doctors are our saviors, right? When the whole pandemic came, and, because of doctors, why aren't they talking about violence against doctors? Why isn't there a more stringent act or, like, a law passed, right? If there is violence, I know there's something out there, but it's not as stringent as it's supposed to be there, right? So I think these are some things that people should really come out and talk about, and these are concerns that should be genuinely addressed.
Nice.
So, why aren't the politicians talking? Because we are in a very difficult position as a country today, because they didn't do their job. So they're not going to come out and say, oh, oops, the doctor's getting beaten up. It should have been me. It's my mistake. I didn't do the necessary things, or I let, gatherings and rallies and stuff happen, which caused said, condition where the doctor had to be beaten up. And the hospital management, the executives, they're not going to talk about it either, because, it's not them. It's not them. And
You're addressing, like, addressing just like this. The politicians also have to address, like, it's a government, like, overall failure. It's like it's years of this. So it's like, it's like it's not like you're prepared just for this one event. It's like it's multiple. I'm not just saying India. Like, America, you're paying through insurance. Like, you're paying a certain amount of money to hold your baby. Like, that's medicine becoming a way for you to kind of exploit the consumer, which is a patient, a human life, is a conversation that needs to be brought up more often than not, than just like, why are doctors being attacked? Like, doctors are being attacked because of the failings of years of consumerism. Like, we've treated medicine as consumer product. So that's a bigger conversation that needs to be had. And we don't address that because it's inconvenient. It's an inconvenient truth.
I think medicine is not what became consumerized. I think it's healthcare.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah,
think
that's for
if we want to start about this, we should actually start about people taking care of their health.
Yeah.
You know, I think, you know, see, in a country where we live, when, you know, the government and the policies and the state and the center, when it's failing in all sorts of ways, I think what people should realize at this point is we are responsible for our own health. As we're responsible for our own home, like, you know, making our own food, eating our own food, health is our responsibility. It's not the responsibility of the government. It's not responsibility of the doctors. It's just not, because for us it's a job, and we do go out of our way to do a lot more. But at the end of the day, we went to school, we went to college, and we went for an interview, and we got a job, and we get paid, and, you know, we run our house.
Right.
So we are just like anyone else. We're not God, and we're not the bad people either.
And
I'm not saying that there's no, I mean, there's good and bad in everything. Are there no bad movie actors? There are. Is there a bad electrician? Yes. Is there a bad doctor? Yes. Do they
Also, I
want to
want
make
to
money?
address quickly.
Yes.
I was reading an article earlier, and I had it open, my computer. I had to open it for work for a second, and I saw that there's a section in the article that says, what can a doctor or can or should do to avoid violence? Which I'm like, you just this is a victim blame. Like, you're just asking the victim, what can you do to make sure you don't get hit? It's like, so I just thought it was very silly that there's, you know, even a journalist at the end of the day is telling a doctor, it's like, you know, you can actually do better at this to not be
Yeah.
which
Yes,
is
Sanju, that's
How
like,
is this?
what can a girl not do to not get raped?
That's
yeah.
that's what I was gonna say right now.
no, like one more thing about media reporting also, like if a doctor is negligent, right? Obviously it happens, negligence happens. I'm not saying like all doctors are saints and the only passion, you know, is just treating the patients. You know, there are byproducts. Money is
They're
a
human
byproduct.
beings, yeah.
Like human needs, right?
Yeah.
So negligence, if someone does, like, you know, media reports it. Like media reports it in all the papers. I was seeing in the first Telugu newspaper that I was reading recently says that Rabandulaina doctors. So Rabandulu are vultures for people who don't know Telugu. So vultures, like, you know, picking on like dead meat and flesh is what they called. But when the doctor is innocent, there is no much news covered. I think keeping aside, like, you know, blaming government or media or celebrities or doctors or patients, I think one important thing, because I have a lot of medical going to become doctors following my page, if they're watching, just know that you have to take care of yourself. You have to protect yourself in terms of, you know, there are many warning signs that, you know, if someone has threatened you that, you know, if you don't rescue my mother or father, I will see your end. I'll meet you outside the hospital, and that kind of warning. Don't take it easy, because I know a lot of warnings were given to us when we were students, and we used to laugh it off or be like, I think, you know, obviously, you know, he's very impulsive or she's very irritable. But, you know, take it as take the threat very seriously and report to the higher authority, because that kind of thing won't go down well with you later. Another thing is, you know, I think one of the factors why people say that they're beating up doctors is because doctor is not very compassionate, you know, while speaking. Didn't give enough attention and time. Yes. Again, like I said, the ratio of the doctor to patient is very bad. That yes, you know, you might not be giving enough attention. You can ask the doctor for attention. If you still don't get it, change the doctor. It's okay. You know, get a second opinion, get a third opinion. Just like, you know, you should have your own reasons to decide on your own if the doctor is good or not. Just know that we can't show our emotions. You know, we also feel bad that, you know, the patient is getting critical, but we can't show. The first thing we learn in medicine is, you know, be strong in terms of while you're delivering the message to the patient's family. Because if you are feeling vulnerable, you are not in the position of power to tell them about the news the patient is not doing well. So that's the first thing as an 18-year-old we all learn. I think there's also a quote like, eye of a tiger or something like that. Like they compare, they ask doctors to be like the strongest, most fierce animals.
But don't you think that's kind of counterproductive, Dr. Charan? Like, I mean, as a doctor, you're supposed to be empathetic. You're representing a very empathetic position. So why is it instructed by your in any position, I think, like, why is it instructed that like bedside manner, this is essentially bedside manner, showing empathy, compassion, it's also human behavior. Like in your
Right.
personal lives, doctors are definitely compassionate, like,
Right.
you have people you love. So why is it encouraged that medical instructors are telling doctors to put on such a stoic front so patients can't, relate to them? Why is that such a...
I think one of the reason is if if you show the emotions, right, you also feel them. You feel them more, and when you're feeling emotional, there's more scope for bias in the treatment. In how you, for example, if I'm feeling so vulnerable about this patient, I might not do my best. That's why we can't treat our own family members, because so many emotions are involved. I think yes, you have to be empathetic. You can't be stoic like that. You have to be empathetic, but if you think the doctor is going to just hold you and cry along with you, that's not going to happen. But patients might expect that sometimes, that healing hands and hand some touch, gentle
All
touch
this
and all.
cinematic stuff.
Yeah, cinematic stuff like it.
I mean, that's all what we saw in movies and in TV shows and stuff. That's not reality.
But you guys are seeing, like, I mean, from just my general understanding, during COVID, I'm sure you're seeing, like, I don't even want to ask how many you're seeing in a day, but when you were seeing patients on a regular basis, when there wasn't a pandemic, approximately how many patients would you see in a day that you could have had a personal conversation with?
I mean,
you have to see, you're a neuropsychiatrist, so you are seeing patients like,
yeah.
For example, after surgeries, if you had like 4 or 5 surgeries in a day, how often are you interacting with the patient, Dr. Satya, like with the family, like have enough time to interact with the family? Like, this is just an objective question to understand as,
I need to talk to the patients before they go for surgery and after they go for the surgery, and when I, check on the patient post-surgery and at the time of discharge and at every follow-up. But when I'm seeing one patient, at least through the whole process of pre and during the surgery and during the recovery, I think I talk to a single patient and their family about 20 times. And I do this, and this is with so many other patients.
Right.
So, see, if there's, I can give you an example. So a really old lady comes and she's like, she wants to get surgery all on her own. You're going to see me full on empathetic and compassionate. But if there's a whole family who comes with that patient and nothing goes wrong, like this, the patient's not complicated, the surgery went well, and the outcome is good, I'm going to be normal. I'm not going to be very sympathetic. I'm not going to go out of my way. But with that lady who just came alone and doesn't have any help, I would probably, put in more time, put in more effort, and I'd go out of my way to do something.
Right.
So just because I'm normal with
which is natural,
yes,
human behavior.
That amount of compassion and empathy, I think, is normal. But sometimes sometimes I don't think it's I don't know if I can say the word fair to expect a lot of empathy and compassion more than is required.
Right.
Like,
it's like how you would say, it's like if you, like, for example, I don't think I would ever talk to my client about whether or not I, if they're going through something, I'd be like, oh, I'm so sorry that you're going through that. But I would be like, yeah, if you need to talk to someone, I'm here for you. That's not something, it's a natural professional instinct of mine. So I'm sure as a doctor, that's not a natural instinct of yours to go to every patient's family and be like, I'm here for you.
No, also I think being in, to become doctor, you take so many years, right, over a decade. So what happens with this process is that, the sensitivity towards a disease reduces, it doesn't look as bad that it looks for outsiders.
Yeah.
COVID is looking very bad because understand the COVID is new for everyone, be a doctor, non-doctor. So it's looking very new. But other things, because it's backed up by science and we're looking at like, oh, this is that molecule or this thing. So often I think the emotions get lost in the way. It's just years of seeing patients will make you not as sensitive towards the disease. So you might be very objective in terms of, like this is the first line of the treatment, I've given it to you.
Yeah.
I think it's just something that comes with the this thing. So but some doctors still retain the quality of speaking well, and every day they put up a show, or they
Right.
like they go that extra mile to be that, and they're considered as like the best doctors, the very
I
good
mean,
doctors.
that's a very good practice. I mean, some amount of doing that is completely necessary because it's your job and you need to do it. And it's like, they are your client, so they need to be happy and all of that. I mean, happy in like health wise, they need to be happy. So I have an example like empathy and everything, right? So that part, like that. So in a company, there's a, let's just say it's an IT company. So there's a technical unit and there's a sales unit and there's all kinds of divisions. Everyone does their own work. But here, the doctor has to see the patient, has to the sales part, the technical part, and the other part. They have to do all of it. So there are chances that some part of what the patient expect, the doctor cannot deliver. If the
Right.
patient asks for something and if the doctor's cold, yes, that's not right.
Yeah. No, but
You get
no,
what I said.
and that shouldn't be a reason for violence against doctors, right?
Yeah, that's not a viable
It
response at all.
right? It No, so I feel education, when it comes to like when people know that this is not the doctor. So come to COVID, for example, right? The doctor's not hiding a vial of remdesivir in his pocket and not giving it to you, right? It's really
Yeah.
not there, right? It's really not there, and it's unavailable. He or she is actually going to try on your behalf to get it for you. Ideally, more than 90% of doctors, I'd say, would be falling in this category, trying to help you out, right? Obviously, there will be outliers, but it's sad to see few people who are literate who come out on media. I know there was this case of one designer who came out and was talking about their family member, right? Well-known, renowned people who speak as if they know everything, and media kind of portrays this in a really bad way until the truth comes out. But the sad part, the truth doesn't come out the same way as the whole accusation comes out, right? When they accuse you, it's like widespread. It's like it goes like wildfire. But then when the real truth comes out, half the people don't even know about it, right? So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this what you just said is so strong that sometimes our own family members and extended family members are like, yeah, but the doctor shouldn't have done that way, no?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so ingrained in
It's so
every cell of
it's so deep. Like just we doing one Insta live is not going to fix anything.
No.
But even if the whole point of these lives are for the people to watch and go and educate, not just like keep it with you.
Yeah, it's like you have to start a conversation wherever it is. It's like it's important for you to start this conversation as a part of like any community you are.
No, but one important area that I want to address, right? Not just doctors. Okay, fine. You have reasons that doctors are making good money, which I don't know how is it a crime, but yeah. Anyways, what about nurses? Nurses get abused more than doctors.
They do.
It's not just the physical abuse, just the verbal abuse. How they're made to feel so belittled, and verbally they get abused. Like what about that? And understand that in India, especially in India, a nurse makes like an average of 6 to 10,000 a month, which is probably less than what I don't want to compare to other professions, but a lot of other below middle class to like lower class people make per month. Daily wage workers make more money, and nurses study really hard. They study for like 4-5 years, if I'm not wrong, and some of them even do their masters. What about that?
The course of nursing is as long as it is for MBBS.
Yeah.
It's 4.5-5 years. And then another 2 years for masters.
And they make such less money. And what is the reason for you to misbehave with nurses? Because every day, every nurse keeps telling me. And also, when I ask my patients, they say that we were calling doctor, she was not coming. But I understand there are 30 patients. I'm talking about a specialty hospital that I work at. It's one of the top hospitals. There are 30 or 40 patients, and there are 4 nurses. I mean, the odds are that multiple people called her at the same time. Very good odds. Why don't you understand that?
I mean, I've seen this in my own family. Like they were complaining that, oh, we were in the hospital and the nurse
Yeah.
didn't come on. So it doesn't have to be. I mean, it's like right there. It's your family. The person. I mean, I don't know what to say about that.
But also, yes, some of the doctors are not medically well trained. I agree that, there are definitely, not everybody is so good with their medical knowledge. Again, the process of taking in the doctors into the medical school, students into medical school, examination system, all this also have to be changed,
Yeah.
it's not just one
It's like the
thing,
healthcare, the whole healthcare infrastructure that we've built as a country, like anywhere, it has to be
Yeah.
restructured to make sure that it's helping someone and not making someone resentful of it. It's like, if that's
Yeah.
what we're pushing towards, then what's the point of us even like having modern medical marvel? Like, it's like we're not training enough people to save our lives, or not putting enough money to protect the people who are willing to do this, then what's the point in us even having all this?
Yeah, I mean, many countries are putting up these new rules about the number of work hours because, after a point, doctor's brain is also same brain, it's based on the same cells and same tissue as yours, right?
I mean, a phone gets overheated, a
A
computer.
phone gets overheated, just like that,
Who's the
I
brain?
think
I mean,
the good quality of...
Do you think this, for India specifically, can you guys hear me? Sorry.
sorry, we lost.
We lost you.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just wanted to ask, do you think in general, like in India right now, because of such a public, medical pandemic that happened, and like a very, like people saw, like it's a very physical thing. People saw what was happening. It was a failing of multiple institutions. So do you think that's going to cause any effective change, or do you think this is just a conversation that'll be shelved again and we won't hear about it until the next big
Well, the medical education,
disaster?
the medical education training, recently it's been changed. So I mean, this is just the training of the doctors, but no one's going to prepare you how to deal with a patient or a patient's family member, or in a corporate setup or in a government setup. So I think that also needs to be like in a job, like there's there's an internship. So there should be an internship how a hospital runs and how things are done. I don't think a doctor should just go to a place, not get used to the place, and just start working there because they don't know. Like if I go and work in a government hospital, I wouldn't know like how to deal with the patient, how to deal with that kind of a setup. So I think there should be a training period, not just like in medicine, but in like any other job. Like you get trained to. Did you understand that?
No. I mean, I have a slightly different the outlook towards this, right? I think in the medical curriculum, right, they have introduced soft skills, communication skills, etc. But who is going to teach these soft skills? I mean, we are a bunch of doctors who didn't have soft skills as a part of the training. We were just trained about like diseases and treatment and diagnosis and all of that. Now you're introducing, government is doing it like every job on the book. But what about the implementation? Who is coming and doing the soft skill training? Like the medical college that I work at, they said, oh, because like you are a psychiatrist, like why don't you take soft skills class? So I said like, I mean, I can teach them bedside manners. That's already a part of a curriculum, but I don't know anything more.
I guess we need to play one of those Grey's Anatomy or Doctor House. I mean, maybe then we'll learn the soft skills.
No, see, I think even if you know soft skills, right? Even if you know this is how I should communicate by the book, there is a simulation of a particular exercise.
You can never control how the other person is feeling. This is
Exactly.
a two-way
You can't. You can't control. Everything is beyond your control there. That's the reason why patient collapsed in the first point. So I think restricting the mob into the hospitals also need to stop. If you see the security personals, right, who are standing outside the hospital, they are like, I think they're not even majors, if I'm not wrong. They're like 18, 19, so more likely they will run away if mob comes towards them, or they'll get beaten up along with the doctor. So I think you should have more security at the hospitals. Unfortunately, the one place that shouldn't need security needs security right now, because every doctor you lose, you understand that the healthcare system is going to collapse further.
Right.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I'm just thinking, like, right now we're just hearing about a third wave, and this third wave, I don't know, affecting the younger age group, right? With
That's
elder
what they
people
say.
going through this and patients' family members reacting this way, if something happens to like the younger age group, I just see people going even more crazy. I personally feel all of us, like, so see, as we work in like IT, right, Sanjana, right, in the software industry, um, we wouldn't know of all this if, like, our family members aren't doctors, right? And there are many families who have no one in their close relations also as doctors. We should start talking more about this, especially with our friends and family and everyone. Educate them that they're actually doing their best, right? And this is the situation. This is where we are, right? The pandemic will potentially last for another year or two, right? We've seen the past pandemics have lasted for 3 to 5 years, right? So this will probably last for another 2 to 3 years, right? For all you know. The best thing that I can think of is we should start talking more about this, educating people around us, so that these situations don't happen as often as we see them. Right?
Yeah.
And also
Also,
ask questions, like learn about
yeah.
policy. Like it's never too late to educate yourselves. It's not about reading a Vanikad. It's not just that. It's just about having like a broad perspective of what is going on outside of your comfort zone.
No, also all the budding doctors, right? Through the course of the treatment, in India there is this thing that doctors tend to give a little false hope because they don't want patient family members to feel bad. There's this thing that you shouldn't communicate everything because they'll feel very upset. Let's do our best. It comes from a good place. It comes from good heart. But understand that when you look at American system or other developed countries, they always give you exact picture what's going. How is it going wrong and how it can go wrong, and how they also give them treatment of choice. Like we have these 3 drugs, and we are little bit of education from the doctor side is also needed. Like doctors also have to get trained in soft skills and communication, and how much of hope can be given to the patients and all of that. So
Um,
yeah.
so, just a thought, I want to put it out there. So the pandemic did hit every part of the world, right? So we saw UK going through a really bad phase. We saw America going through a very bad phase. And now India is going through a very bad phase. Did we hear about violence on doctors in the UK? Did we hear about it in America?
Not
I
as
mean,
much. Yeah.
Not as much.
I do agree that the healthcare system did. I mean, it didn't. It did fail a little bit in both those countries, but did it fail as much as it did in India? So the first thing is the healthcare system is it's in place. There's a way to do things, and it's in place. And also, why are we hearing about violence only in India, but we're not hearing about it in these other countries? Like the doctors are like, oh my God, you're gods, and they're being praised, and they're being put on a pedestal. Like, why is this only happening in India? Did you guys ever think about that?
Culture believes towards the doctor as a noble profession, right? I think that should end.
Yeah.
Enough of that. Like, just treat them. I mean, obviously, give them respect. Maybe a little more respect for working a little too hard. But otherwise, I think don't equate them to God, and don't put them in that position. That never
Don't
works.
like what Dr. Satya was saying. Don't expect them to do miracles, which is
Yeah.
not possible for any human being. Like, even though it's very enforced in in our religious climate that godmen exist, but it's not real, and doctors are definitely just human beings who are doing their job. It's like at the end of the day, being a doctor is a job. Like,
So I think we'll end with like one simple example that I'll give you. That I go into ICUs every now and then, and when I'm talking to the patient there, I get a referral 1 or 2 days later once they're medically stabilized. When I go and talk to them, obviously I tend to give them a little more time than an emergency physician. Let's just say emergency physician gave them 5 minutes, I'll give them 10 minutes or 15 minutes. So they immediately are like, doctor, you're the best doctor in the entire hospital. So patients should understand that the whole emergency physician itself means they're they're running on like time. They don't have much time, so they can't sit and talk to you as much. So probably the best doctor is the one that saved your life, not the one who is coming later for a referral. So
Correct.
this don't equate how much money you spend to a good doctor or bad doctor, how much time you're given as good doctor or bad doctor. So all that shouldn't happen. And also all of you, please get health insurance, because medical care, like quality medical care in our country, can be very expensive. Even for me, if I had to admit my own family member who happens to be a doctor, it's still expensive for all of us. So get insurance, because all the developed countries have very good intact health insurance. So we don't. So that's one thing where probably, because you don't need the financial burden on top of already feeling bad if your family member is going to make it or not. Yeah. All right. Any parting thoughts?
Hey, just one thing. I think, what you guys are doing is beyond words, right? During the pandemic, and it's being like whatever is happening right now is extremely bad. I hope people start talking more about this. We in like the software industry, we probably go through a lot of stress, but our lives are not at all risky, right? Your lives are at risk, and you go through stress, right? There's too much happening at once, and with all this, you're still trying to stay sane and take care of whoever.
Keep
And
ourselves safe from the pandemic as well.
right, exactly, right, all of this happening together. So it's tough, and like we can obviously say that we empathize with you, but that's where it stands. We're not in your shoes, so I hope you guys stay safe, and I hope people understand that you guys are doing the best for everyone as well.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Thank you. What about you, Sanjana?
I think this was a great conversation. I think there should be more of these happening on a consistent basis. Basically, just like have some perspective as an individual. Like you're like have, it's very hard. Emotions run high, especially when you're worried about someone you love. But it's always good to have perspective. Like try and just like put yourselves and look at this person as another human you're interacting with, not just like a profession, because you dehumanize them if you just look at them as like they're a doctor. So it's very like always think about that. I think I should also practice it, because I've also put myself in a position where I've resented doctors. So yeah, it's been great. Thank you.
What about you?
So I think for the doctors especially, I think stay strong. You're doing a really good job. Making it home at the end of the day, keeping yourself safe, keeping your family safe, and these are exceptionally difficult times. So do hold your head up. You should be proud of yourself, and we're all proud of every doctor out there doing their best. So just keep doing what you're doing. Be more careful. I would say communicating better. Like even if it's bad news, give it to them. Soft, in a really soft way, so you avoid assault on your own self. So we are living in a country where the question does arise: how do you protect yourself, even if you're right? So just be watchful and be careful of what you tell the patient, and always do the best you can. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah, she summarized it all. Like, first of all, don't find someone to blame. Control your impulse, deal with your own grief, and then come back and take a look, if negligence has happened. If it did, you can always, call cops and any doctor. It's okay.
Take
But,
legal action. Yeah.
yeah,
yes.
take legal action if you think something has gone wrong, and if you're sure about it. Don't be like, if death happened, something must have been fishy. Like, no. So, and like, don't blame, like, like the same case that you're talking around, they were blaming about, some antidepressants were given.
Right.
So understand, antidepressant, this particular medicine, I won't give the name, that is given, approved for a trial to be given to the patients, because apparently it is reducing the formation of clots in the lungs.
Yeah.
So understand, one drug can have multiple actions. So if it's antidepressant, it's not just for depression. It's there for many other conditions, probably which you don't know, and I know on the other side. So why will they put you on more medicines for no reason?
So you should understand that the doctor is so desperate to save your patient that they're trying everything.
Yeah.
They're not just trying to make money. They're trying to save the patient.
So yeah, I learned on this that most of us, we go all guns blazing at the patients, like to save them, right? But just know that we can fire them as well, if it comes to our safety. So you don't want
where
that.
do you go if you really upset us and if we're scared and we sit at home?
Yeah, so I'm ending
Where's
with
everyone going to go?
I'm ending with a threat. I think people are going to not like me for that, but
Well, you have to do what you have to do, right, Dr. Charat? So
yeah. All right. Thank you so much for joining. And one last cheers.
Yeah.
Most of us finished our tea, but yeah.
Take care, guys.
Take care, guys. Stay safe.
Bye-bye.
Bye.